Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Ken Newton with the Artist Collective, along with Victor Rivera, and we have Kevin Russell and Greg Barr as usual, and our main person here, Ali Murat. Today we're going to be speaking about AI as usual, and we want to address some of the concerns about is AI bad and some other things. Victor.
Good morning, how everybody, or good night, wherever you are looking at the live stream. Yes, AI as a tool or is a threat? What's going on? Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Greg. Hi, Ali. How are you guys?
Good morning, Victor and Ken.
Hi, Victor.
Oh, you're muted, Greg.
Good. There had to be someone who had to unmute, so I volunteered. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. It's actually afternoon where I am.
All right. Well, Ali, so we wanted to get some idea, since you've been creating your own AI and exploring the space for a long time, how you feel about AI, but more importantly, like I'm sure that you've spent a lot of time considering it, whether it was a tool or an issue to society and all the different ethics that go behind it. So like to get some idea of your history with AI and how that's played into what you've been building.
Well, AI is for me at least 30 years old. Just I've been the time the personal computers started appearing, the 1K computers even. I was thinking, how about if these machines could do the things that we can do, and take the bulk work from us, and that led me to think about the AI. But personally, when I decided to work on AI, it was a time when the Will Smith I Robot film came out, and I saw that thing and I said, if somebody's going to do it, I have to be that guy. So now it's serious AI is from 2004 onwards for me, which makes how many years now? 19 years, right? So it's a lot of things I've seen, a lot of developments, not only on my side, but on other people's sides as well. On my side, I used AI for most of my works, which were animation, architecture, engineering, and publishing. All these places, I wrote my own AI stuff so I could, do things faster and without any issues. Because wherever the hand is in, you get some issues, you get some problems that come together with it. So it came up to a place where we could just write a script, the text for a television series, and get the series off the computer in 5 seconds only. Just and we could upload it to a beta cam and give it to the TV station for broadcast. And we did 52 series episodes with that, and I haven't seen any of them. Just the first one. I just saw the first one. So at that time, AI was something that people didn't understand what was going on. This was 2008, and in 2004, I wrote Kompishko, which could talk to you in English and Turkish at the same time, and had curiosity, and it could do some research for you. And it was a very very fast piece of software, and the the the, the incredible part of that thing is the software itself was 840 kilobytes only, 840 kilobytes, and it was unbelievable. So technically, it was always a help for me. But nowadays, I look at it and see all the developments. And since the military stuff has come into thrown using AI and some other mischievous sides of AI, it became like a threat. And it is the way you look at it. It's a threat and it's a tool. So you have to decide where to use it and how much you need it. Just when you look at all these cars that are running the streets without a driver, you definitely need AI for that. Definitely. The AI, that same AI, is being used for bombing people all over the world. So it's a matter of the angle you look at it.
Ali, question. So when you mention you run your own AI for all those that are new in the AI community, do you create it? Do you use ChatGPT or something similar in the past? How you relate this? You run your own AI, and it's easy to do.
Well, depending on the angle you look at it, I always use my own stuff. I never looked at other people's AIs because AI was not existing at those times. It's no one talked about AI. There was no GPT or any other stuff in 2004, 2007, 8, etc. Those days. So I was relying on my own thing, and that actually helped me a lot because people were going to left, and I went to right to find something that I can work with, and I used a different approach to AI rather than looking at things and learning and trying to do its own stuff. I said, have curiosity and ask for things. I don't have to show it to you. I don't have to. I don't have to give the details to you. You check for all the details that you want, and you write your own software. That was very important for me. And at those times, a lot of people were interested in how I'm doing this because with a tiny little thing, with less than a megabyte software, less than a megabyte could do a lot of work for me. And because it was not written with one and zeros, it was totally different. That was a compiler I've done for myself, which I called Liquid Data, and Liquid Data could get things much faster and in a very different way than we do computing today. The most of the people do today. There must be a lot of companies or labs that are working on different ways of computing data. But mine was totally different than ones and zeros, and it helped me go through the AI process very fast.
So I'm going to jump in because I want to. It's a crucial part of, I think, what you were developing when you moved from using, the computer to automate a lot of areas of labor from the animation perspective. And that's really not so much AI, but really just as a tool to take over repetitive tasks, but also it was adopted for scripting, right? So it wrote its own scripts for the episodes that you were producing and everything. And then
Yeah,
there's like a transition when you started thinking about Compishko. And Compishko really starts introducing machine learning. And if we talk about that a little bit as the sort of a central part of artificial intelligence, you were interested in developing a kind of a companion, an artificial intelligence companion that could learn. All of the learning, I think, my understanding for the GPT AI is based on training the algorithms on data that's presented to it that it ingests. So in the case, recently of the AI that's been developed, it's millions and millions and millions of characters from existing websites, content and information. But how did the Compishko learning differ from that, and still does differ from that? How does
Well,
Kompishko learn?
Without giving too much away.
first of all, the magic word is curiosity. So I was not after a machine like an answering machine, like a phone stuff. Yeah, I was not after something like that. I was thinking, uh, first, how do we learn? We have some curiosity, right? We want to learn. We're curious about something, so we run after that, and we pick some data and go again deeper, deeper, and learn it. So instead of going through zillions of data and trying to figure out the model that made all these details, I was saying that connecting everything together, in the mind of the computer, is must be the basic thing. So I started doing an algorithm that could connect things rather than just forming models and forming I don't know, some structures, algorithms. This was connecting things. And so if I say, for example, a tiger, and if I'm talking about a circus, and tiger and circus are connected to each other, on and the machine can look for that on the internet. But the moment it starts searching for circus, it can go to tiger, and after tiger it goes to fear, it goes to India, it goes, it gets all the connections and ties them together, and it tries to figure out what was the thing that would make all these things connected to each other. So it had Kopishka had 27 levels of connectivity, meaning, like, is it the basic things, starting with basic, like, is it a solid, liquid, gas, or living substance? The color, the weight, everything. Looks at all these things, and puts them together and tries to figure out what this thing is about. It wants to understand, But nowadays, for example, Chat GPT system, it just picks some information that actually fills the data, the structure, the model. That whatever fits that model, that's it. Just it doesn't understand, it doesn't learn, it doesn't have any sense of curiosity. And
It,
plus, one more thing. Plus curiosity, you need some kind of intelligence for the machine that has artistic capabilities, creativity. So then it should start saying that instead of a tiger, what if I put a lion? What happens then? So start go through these things one by one.
so it's really fundamentally different, because what people are seeing as an output of artificial intelligence now from OpenAI and companies that have invested millions of dollars in this now, my understanding of that is that it's learned to imitate by reading through conversational threads or blogs or posts that are publicly available, how humans respond to each other, and it is basically trying to emulate that as its basis for interacting with us. And so what I'm hearing is that what your approach is doing is really to try to empower the algorithms to do their own determination or learning from what it can acquire. And obviously the sources are going to be the same. It's the internet, right? It's not, I mean, you could have a
Definitely.
private database or other things like that that are not public websites to feed it with. But my point is, the source of information for any kind of AI is what humans produce and make available electronically. So
Uh,
I think. Go
let
ahead.
me add something to that. When I was writing Kripishko, this was in 2004, the internet was not that powerful. It was not fast. It didn't have enough information, etc. etc. And I had some back issues. I couldn't stand. I had to lay down for a couple of months because of my spinal cord. And so I was lying there and asking Kompishko to do some work for me. So he was writing his own little software, but he was not going on the internet and asking things. He was asking me. And if I say, again, let's go to the same example. If we're talking about a tiger, he would ask me, well, "What is a tiger?" I say, "It's an animal. It's an animal. What kind of is it? A fierce animal or a pet or what?" So we're chatting with Kompishko. He was learning it, just like a kid does. So the basic idea on the computer was that instead of the internet, because the internet was not powerful at that time. But of course, by the time the internet started getting richer and faster, and so then that was added to Campishko. And the funny side was I was working on a couple of different computers at the same time, and they were talking to each other and teaching them. So they were asking each other about some information, and it was capturing some images from the internet and sending it to the other computer and say, "Look, you were checking for tigers. Look at the picture I found," kind of thing. That was very interesting. That was the human thing, the human aspect that I was always after. How do we learn? We don't go on internet and check for zillions of data and make them fit into some models. We don't do that. We just pick one information that we're curious about and go after that, and divide it into many arms and legs, and then produce something out of it. Of course, the computer does this much faster than we do, many millions of times faster. And in when Compishka went, in 6 months' time, I think it was around that time, it could start the Spider browser, which I wrote at that time, meaning like it could go for more than 1 million browsers at the same time and just pick the data's text or necessary information and come back instead of downloading all the images and all the text and everything. So that was an initial step for me, trying to figure out how I can reach those information and the details and feed my curious computer.
So, in a sense, you created a learning machine, not an answer machine.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
it
that
was a
fair to
learning
say?
machine. It
Right.
was like a child. It was like a child. You know, uh, and when I tested, I would put it like this. I said, "Hey, go on the internet, check for what's happening today, what's important, and I could say that you're a engineering machine and you're a artistic machine, or you're a, give them background. So say art, you're an artist, and the computer would go and check for the art exhibitions, art museums, etc., etc., and then pick some details. For example, he would go and say, Pablo Picasso, okay, and then he would go, what did he do? So he would go for Pablo Picasso and learn what people say about Picasso, and then go to those people who talk about Picasso and start searching for them. What's happening. So I'm not saying anything to it. Just it's starting its own behavior, and it's not bringing back any data. It is just correlating data, always correlating data. That was the basic
So
thing.
that
And
actually is a good lead-in. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and I was saying that even with the speed of a computer and speed of internet, the maximum amount of data that will take place in the machine memory is going to be more than 4 or 5 megabytes. I'm not talking about zillions of terabytes. No, 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 no. It's like, because I was not getting any data back. I was just correlating that data, through some image processing, not even the words and text, etc. Just, if I find something like name Greg, I would just that's my computer. So it was. I, I didn't have to go for collecting all the data and storing it somewhere. No, I didn't need that. The data is there anyway. All I needed was a snapshot of where the computer is.
Just access to that data. Yeah. Uh, what I just recently watched online was a short documentary about the AI, the use of AI at Walmart, and how they use it for loss prevention and tracking customers
Really,
and things like that. And that raises a whole
really.
bunch of privacy issues, even though you're on private property and such. Um, and also, I know there's a lot of talk around the privacy issues or the ethics of the data that's being used. In your case, if you have access to the data, then it can be learned. You can learn on it. If you don't have access to the data, then it's not going to be part of its body of knowledge, but it'll go somewhere else and ask and learn. What do you, just as a matter of understanding and letting people know how you handle the data that you receive, since you were just talking that you're not storing data, you're not taking people's private information or public information and doing anything but processing it. So yeah, expand on that a little bit.
Well, as I said, I'm just correlating that data, and if that data is not able anymore, it's like I'm forgetting that data. But of course, I'm also storing some of the important data that I use. Just like this way, we learn how to multiply numbers when we're in the primary school, right? But we memorize that. We don't really learn it. We just memorize 2,000, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, kind of thing. That data requires memorization. We have to memorize that thing so you can use it in your other things. But we don't, usually memorize the formula of some, I don't know what, geometrical blah 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 thing. We just know where it is. We just learn how to approach that formula. So the Kempishko was totally doing that kind of thing, learning where to find the data, and but meanwhile storing some crucial data, important data, like letters and numbers, and some basic structures of the time, etc. So, but when you look at it, at the end of the day, you end up with very little data that's in your hand, that you spent the time, and even that data is not written in ones and zeros. It's like correlated graphics. So that was another issue I was facing with writing things down. Takes a lot of for example, the first time I tried to write something in HTML, I found out that even just to say hello, I had to write down, I have to send one page full of information, text to the other side, just to say hello. So I don't need that. All I need is a pointer that points to the hello. It can be a number, 127, that's hello. So if I say 127, it's the abbreviation of hello. So connecting all these things together, then you come up with a string of so many numbers together, and even that, when I turn it into liquid data, can go to a seed number rather than being a huge string. It's a seed number that creates that string on demand in real time. So that was also very important for me. That seed thing. Using that structure, I was able to do television series, and which could come out from one seed number, the whole series, everything. So because you can open so many things with one seed number. You can it's so it's
Well,
just
expand on the TV series and your experience with that, and what the final product was. You aired across a couple of countries, I know, and you had a pretty big following. You went for a long time. Yeah, just tell us a little bit more about the series that you created. And the age of it is just astounding that you were doing this literally decades before other people were getting there. So.
well, I did 63 television series, animated series, most of them, big number of them, probably at least 59 or 60 of them are animated TV series of half hours of 52 episodes each. So that's a lot of work. It's a huge work. So I could use my computers to handle the most of the work to be done, from designing the characters to doing animation 3D, 2D, and sound, editing, you know, everything. I remember once we did a series called um, Pico's Island. And the last moment we were sending it to Cannes for the festival, we saw that there was a deep noise on the sounds of everything. I don't know where it came from, but there was and we didn't have enough time to do the editing. Again, it would take probably months to do 52 hours, 52 episodes of half hours. So I wrote a simple, in half an hour or so, I wrote a simple code and fed it to Kompishko, and Kompishko could do everything, everything. Reassemble all these sounds and get the glitches out, get the deep sounds out, and re-edit them, and mix them all together, put them on the video, everything done in half an hour. So and I said, okay, this is it. I cannot do it with human power. So that's but the computer knows where to lower the voice, or where to do the transmissions, transact all these cuts and edits and splices and sound levels, and and looks at the script text, creates that text again, and puts the music there, dissolves them, and does the leveling, and and everything. 50th episode immediately done, because it doesn't listen to us, listen like we do. It doesn't listen to the sound. It just goes in the details of the sound and recreates everything and puts it on the video, and there you go. Then you take your video to send it to Khan. It was it is at that part, the AI is a tool, a huge tool, and I'm pushing everybody I know that are in the education business, the governments and ministers, and to teach children in the primary school to learn how to write code, and how to especially write code on intelligence, and children can do it. It's not a joke. It's like a game. They can start, because otherwise we'll be the tools of the computer, not that the computers are going to be our tools, and that's very dangerous. But if we know how to control the computers, if the child knows how to control the computer, then he can develop things around it and make his life much better, and that helps the purpose of science. But the other way, then it's a threat. When the computers start doing their own thing, that's a threat.
So Ali, in that perspective, if AI have to be centralized with some controls, that way you don't get out of hands from the public.
Well, it's a very serious subject. When I start writing a code, I first make sure that the code doesn't run out of my hands. So it has some cleats, and it has some locks and these kinds of things, and it doesn't go for racism, porno, violence, these kinds of things. So I make sure that these are under control. But not everybody's going to do that. Because the power of computing is so vast, so big. People will not make use of it and start wars or whatever they want to. Be rich, get power. But on the other hand, again, the computers, the real scientific research on computers and intelligence shouldn't be stopped. It should go on, because they're the only things that can stop the violent part of the world. Because they have the power to do to come against the nasty side of the intelligence. Again, we need that bit. Now and then I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Because people are scared of the intelligence, artificial intelligence. They talk, and am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? But I'm saying that if this thing's going to happen, and it's happening, people are running after it like crazy, there will be nasty things also around. So we need the power of intelligence to come against that nasty thing. So some people must go on the scientific side and do the research and be the good guys, because there will be a lot of bad guys.
That's a good point. That's a good point. let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with a couple more questions.
Okay.
All right, we're back. So Ali, I'm glad that we were able to get to some of the question or some of the answers that we were talking about. How do you see the future going? I know that you were just mentioning how you question whether or not you're doing the right thing, and you see the landscape of everything that's happening. Do you see consumer AI? How do you see RoboSapien or your version of all of this coming into play as we move into the future? Because the market is forming right now, and we have yet to see really any sense of what real products are going to come out of it. So how do you foresee your version of AI being out in the public?
Well, the first time I started working on AI, I was wondering which tools the scientists use, and they were like Procol and Lisp, these kinds of languages. I learned those languages, and I found that they're not good because they're just for academic stuff. I mean, there's no result that you can make your life easier with those tools. So I said, there must be a better way to make sure that this AI is helpful for our lives. And I kept on going the other way around rather than the academic work. And so, but the future is coming to a position where AI will control the machines. Technically, the basic things that they're not going to. It's not going to control us. It's going to control the machines. So the machines will produce the bread. The machines will produce the cars and build houses, and that would make our lives easier, better, etc., etc. So we're going to get very lazy because of AI, because AI is going to take most of our whatever we're doing. Even the GPT, you tell them to write a book, it writes you a book. It's not good, maybe it's not a beautiful book, but it's a book. Technically, it gets some of the load from our shoulders. In many aspects. So it's a very clever anyway. So there will be zillions of these kinds of software that will help us maintain our lives easier and faster. Like we used to go to a bank and look for sit in front of the clerk and go for a provision for a check, and it would take hours sometimes, etc. Then they threw us out of the bank. They said, there's an ATM machine there. Just put your card in there and get the money out. And they said, go home and do it from your home. And they said, now you can walk on the street, or you can go on your boat and still do whatever you want to do. So within that, actually, we're using a simple AI. The machines know about you. The machines can understand what you're doing, and they learn your habits, and they know what you wanted to buy yesterday. So they tell you, this thing is cheaper here. Why don't you go to this shop? And so the AI is coming from everywhere because they're learning our habits, and they're producing for us. So definitely, I'm not. I'm giving it time. In 20 years, there won't be any work. We're going to be working if we want to, but we won't have to work because most of these things are going to be used by machines. The software, etc. The technology is taking that load from our shoulders, so we're not going to be hungry. So the wars are not going to be on killing people and getting their values. It's going to be people will be. I mean, not. Sorry, the companies will be making people more educated and happy, so they can sell their products to you. And those companies are not going to be human controlled companies. They're going to be machine controlled companies, intelligent machines controlled companies. I mean, look at it this way: you go to a Middle Eastern country and there's a war there, and a lot of people die. Why did they die? Why? Think of it this way, because other countries want to get their wealth from them, but now the technology is changing. Those countries want them to live because they want to sell them some high-tech products like cell phones and computers and video recorders, whatever. Just so the times are going to be changing. So people are not going to be killing each other, but they will make other people capable of buying things from them because they're not going to be producing again themselves. The machines, they're going to be the biggest companies of the world, not people. No Zuckerbergs, no Bill Gates. The machines are going to be the biggest companies of the world. They're going to be producing, and because they have weekends, they don't have extra hours. They do it. They just do it. And they can produce. They will be able to produce any amounts of gold and silver, whatever you want, because they're going to be handling the atoms from this onwards. They're not going to be looking for them. They're going to create those things, and the machines will be able to do that. And the DNAs are going to be so flexible. People will be storing information in DNAs. A new technology is coming, a huge technology, and I'm glad I'm a part of that. In year 2000, I think it was 2002. I tried to write the data into humans' flesh, and I could do it. It's not that difficult when you think of it. So the systems are going to change, but to be able to change that system, we need the power of the intelligence of the machines. Because human mind is up to a certain level, and then it cannot compete. If I give you 3,000 numbers and tell you to multiply them with each other, how can it do it? It's feasible. It's almost impossible, but machines can do it. So that calculating power, when the intelligence is added to that, then they're going to do a lot of enormous jumps in the future of the world. And this is coming so fast, so fast. I'm not saying hundreds of years. I'm talking about 20 years. And I had written a book on that actually. It was called Spring Morning in Venus, and that book was about almost this kind of thing. And people would go to Venus and create a new life there, just using the ingredients of the soil of this, and doing whatever element they want, so they can spread out. So it was. I always believe that we need the power of the machines to be happier in our lives, because we're going to have our lives given to us rather than going to a factory and just turning that screw every day, every all our lives long, just and we hate that because it takes 2 hours to go to the factory, 2 hours to come back from the factory, and we have to go just watch a stupid TV series and go to sleep. We're not going to need that anymore. We're going to do arts and sports and just walk around, be human again, be a live thing rather than a flesh machine.
Thank you. I
and,
appreciate that.
and enjoying life. So, Ali, between jobs, the community, what would be your recommendation for kids that they don't want to be coders, they don't want to do computer stuff? What other type of job that you think are gonna still here and AI will not take over them? That way, we balance for the kids that like computer and for the kids that like to be an electrician or a plumber.
Well, we always will need the plumbers, just that's for certain. And we may not be needing computers anymore. In the coming 20 years, as I'm saying, the technology is going to be changing a lot. So the new generation is going to be working on the creative side of it rather than, you know, bookkeeping or uh, some things that we don't want to do. All these things are going to be done by the machines. But the new generation will be exploring new horizons. Probably they would want to go to space, or they would want to write poems. They would want to play the guitar better. Just it's because the human side of the story is always gonna be there. Actually, at this part, I'm kind of conflicting with myself because I always admired the hand woven carpets, the silk carpets. I always loved those, and I always said these always will be on the market. They're not. No one buys these carpets anymore. It's so they've been pushed into a little corner, because the other carpets are more handier to use. They have, you don't need one person spending half of their life weaving a carpet. It's not feasible anymore. So most of the jobs are going to be like that. They're not going to be feasible anymore. They're going to do it. Machines are going to do it for you anyway. Just so you don't need to do it. But there will be new things coming out, new things, new stuff. For example, uh, 30 or 40 years ago, we didn't know anything about a cell phone. It was in the probably space episodes, these kinds of things. And 300 years ago, if you told someone that there will be sometimes when we were looking at a little machine, and I mean, at that time there was not even a machine. Can you imagine that? And we'll be talking to our son while he's skiing in Canada. I'm going to be in South Africa. These those didn't exist. I mean, at those times, these jobs, these things, this lifestyle never existed. But together with the uh, evolution of technology, the other side of life is also in evolution. You can see that in many sites, suddenly we have all these gurus and yogis and all these Far East and Middle East guys coming up about the consciousness, horoscopes and these things that they're trying to prove that science also has to accept these because these are uncalculated science kind of thing. And so these things are also evolving. When you put them together, there will be a totally different new age coming in. And maybe there will be teletransportation, and probably we won't need food even. There will be some little piece of pill, swallow it, and there you go. 1 month of food. But there,
Nice.
I don't know. At the time, probably we will need the taste in our mouth, while we're eating something, beautiful dinner, something. But will the children at that time understand this? Will they realize the value of this thing? I don't think they will. They will be adapted to the new style. So they don't want to mess their time up with long dinners and breakfast and lunch. So they want to do something different, probably. So I can't tell exactly what's going to happen. It's very difficult to interpret from today.
But you definitely are thinking further out than a lot of people worried about losing their jobs. So
Yes.
it's good to see that perspective, the where the humans, we're very good at adapting, and I think that our adaptation will overcome any of the the short term side effects. Um, so you also mentioned some of the, I guess, the esoteric side of things that science can't really uh, you know answer or
Calculate.
whatever, but
I'm saying
the
calculate.
last calculate, yeah. So and our last question is, you've been working on what's called kahin, and I'd like to get a little understanding of what is kahin, and we know it's all coming soon. So what's kahin, and why should we be excited about it?
Well, Kyle is a very, very important project for me, for all of us. Just because years ago I watched a television series of Morgan Freeman on one of these uh, through the wormhole. I think that was the name of the series, and he was showing an experiment done in one of the universities in the United States that a machine could actually uh, get data without the connection of a internet or a network or anything. It could two machines can talk to each other, and they were doing an experiment like that. And I said, this can't be true. Technically, I'm a scientist. I don't believe this, but I wanted to test it myself. So I wrote a small program on random number generating, and I tested it, and it was true. The machines could get data from each other, and without any connection. I can in some other conference I can explain how I did it. What was the basics of the thing? I said, does the machine get any information from our names and dates of birth and these kinds of things? Is there any value in those things? We're getting all this data when we are born. They give us a name. We have already a surname, and then we have the date of birth, and these numbers and everything. Do they really mean something for the computer? So I started testing it, and with different people, with their names, date of birth, their occupation, these kinds of things. And I saw that there was a pattern there. The computer realized there was a pattern. The intelligent computer, of course. I'm not saying a simple machine. So I wrote a software that could manipulate this and see how we can come out with something like, not a fortune telling, but is could display what's going to happen in your future. Because time for me is not linear. Time is a spherical thing. It goes all over the place. At the same time. What I'm saying, at the same time. So we just follow one line of time, which is the linear part, but the computers can go through anywhere you like. If you write the code properly, they're capable of doing these kinds of things. So I said, what if I write a software that can tell the future of people depending on their names and their, you know, information, their profile, something like that. And the first tests were incredible. People freaked out. They said, "How do you know about this?" They said, I said, "I don't know. But the machine can correlate these things. I don't know how it does it, but it does. It's like electricity. It's there. I don't know how it's there, or the magnetism. No one still can understand what the magnetism is about, but it's there. We use it. We use the end result of it. We know the end result of it. So that's how I started doing this thing, and it ended up with Kahin. Can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the coming 30 years of your life, day to day. Of course, not all of them are going to be exactly like Kahin says, but I made a little test on Kahin with the information I already know, and I can guarantee you 85% is there. 85% is a big percentage. It's huge percentage for knowing your life's future. So Kahin is going to come up and probably going to be very famous because it is the first time machine interacts with your future. Just it's not only physical thing. This is the non-physical thing. This is different. It scares me, by the way. Knowing that computers are capable of doing this kinds of things, it scares me.
I find it fascinating because the first assumption when you tell someone about Kahin is, oh, well, you just dumped in a bunch of natal charts and some tarot reading ideas and all that. But that's not what you've done at all. What you've
No,
done is
no,
allowed the computer itself to take the information and make a prediction or tell you what it thinks about that stuff. So I think it's important to make that distinction, and it makes Kahin that much more special.
Well, what happens is it takes those letters and numbers that make your profile information and builds a huge picture. Together with that data, uses that data as a seed number and creates a huge picture, and then looks for some well accepted data that the fortune tellers and predictors, let's say, I don't know what you call them, use, like horses and hammers and some little images that has some values on people's lives. So it picks up all these images and puts them into a format that's more or less like what GPT is doing now. That's understood by us, by the human. So in English words or any other language, doesn't matter. So it creates that picture to understand what our lives going to be in coming 30 years. Huge picture, huge. When I say huge, I mean huge. But it's not using enormous data to do that. It's again not ones and zeros at that point. It's totally different. Its algorithm is totally different, and it's the size of the software is probably a few megabytes only, and the memory it's using is a few megabytes only. But the thing that it does is huge. When I say huge, believe me, I'm on the data side.
Okay, well that's amazing. Really appreciate the show today, Ali. Thank you for all the information. We've got some more stuff coming up. I think we're going to go live again in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to be bringing on some guests in the future. And I want to thank Greg and Kevin and Victor, and especially you, Ali. Look forward to our next show. And we have people on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter listening. So to all of you out there, thank you very much, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
All right.
Bye,
Goodbye.
guys. Happy Sunday. Saturday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.